Greetings to all of you. My name is Anna Schwartz, and I am a first grade gen ed teacher at E.L. Haynes Public Charter School. A little background about me, who I am, and why I'm standing here before you today. I was born in Colombia, South America, and I was adopted at birth by 2 Jewish white parents. I was raised in a neighborhood that was predominantly white and attended a school that was a saturated white space. Within this school that consisted of people who did not look like me, I was read stories about princesses and heroes that also did not look like me. From an early age, I was always left feeling out of place, an untold story. I realized later on it was extremely difficult for me to find my voice, my narrative, my identity at home and also at school. Where were the fairy tale stories about the Latina Cinderella or the history lessons about female pioneers outside of Women's History Month? How could I envision what success looks like when everyone around me and everything I was taught did not directly relate to who I am? How could I begin to understand the backgrounds and cultures of other people when the only time we celebrated people of color was during Black History Month? At the time, I didn't understand, but as I got older and journeyed through my teaching career, I began to see the missing piece. I needed to see myself in the learning, just like my students needed to see themselves. They needed to feel connected. They must see themselves in order to feel empowered by what they are learning every single day. During my teaching career, my students have witnessed our first African American president, and for most of them, this was the first and only president they knew at the time. And then things shifted in the 2016 election. As our country shifted, so did our realities. The realities of people of color, women, Muslims, the queer community, and more. I knew now more than ever I needed to do something to make my students feel validated and empowered in a world that is trying to tell them otherwise. How could I, as a first grade teacher, contribute to this cause? I began by looking at the curriculum that was already in place. Many times throughout the year, these books would take us all over the world through learning about animals, nature, powerful forces, and Cinderella. I decided to blow up our bookshelves and switch things up. I decided to start a book club in hopes that through books, my students could begin to see themselves in the world differently. We started our journey reading Little Leaders by Vashti Harrison. This book emphasizes on how students can utilize their voices to create change. They saw examples of how hard work and dedication allowed them to do the impossible. We read books like The Youngest Marcher, Sit-In, Separate is Never Equal, and these books told us that we had a voice and it was our right to be able to use it. We also dove headfirst into books like Mixed Me, Chocolate Me, Crown, and I'm a Pretty Little Black Girl. And these essential readings allowed us to see parts of our identity as beautiful and special. We also read books that touched on families, religion, and gender, and this gave us a safe space to know that no matter who you are, where you come from, or whether you identify as boy or girl, success has no boundaries. Throughout the year, book club became one of our most special times during the day, and students who dreaded reading were asking, "Hey, Ms. Schwartz, can I take home the book Little Leaders to read to my family?" I found myself during math, literacy, and science referring back to characters in the book and how if we wanted to be a doctor, lawyer, scientist, or teacher, we needed to work hard in all areas. I began to see that in order to reach a child's full potential, I needed to create an environment where we all were celebrated and we all felt like we could achieve any goal we set our minds to. Breaking down the barriers that sometimes divide us allowed me to teach the whole child, which ultimately allowed those differences to be the driving force behind the work we do every day. I know and believe that children are able to see all possibilities for themselves when we are super intentional by bringing lessons and stories that reflect the brilliant minds that we have the privilege of teaching every day. Thank you.